could a severely rattled EU take legal action against Brexit, Britain? These are some of the reports that are now coming out. We're going to go through it all in this video, but as ever, if you appreciate what we're doing here on the Westminster channel, remember to give a big thumbs up, click subscribe and the bell so you don't miss future episodes. Now, this stems from a report in Bloomberg that claims the EU is studying the possibility of legal action against the UK over PM Boris Johnson's plans to breach the agreement governing Britain's withdrawal from the bloc, according to a document seen by Bloomberg. The EU may have a case to seek legal remedies under the divorce agreement even before controversial provisions in the UK internal market bill are passed by Parliament, and would have a clear justification once the bill becomes law, according to the EU's preliminary analysis of the UK legislation. Manfred Weber, MEP, senior MEP in the European Parliament, saying a no deal is becoming more likely every day. Everyone can see that. We have the feeling that Britain wants a hard Brexit, remember that? For ideological reasons. And as Europeans, we need to prepare for the worst. Now, this document, apparently seen by Bloomberg, concludes that a breach of these obligations would open the way to legal remedies available under the withdrawal agreement. Once the UK transition period draws to close at the end of this year, Bloomberg report, the EU could also trigger the dispute settlement mechanism under the withdrawal agreement, which could ultimately result in financial sanctions, according to the paper. Now, RTE have a bit more on this as well. They report that the UK's attempt to override elements of the Northern Ireland Protocol are a clear breach of the Brexit withdrawal agreement and would allow the EU Commission to take legal action on several grounds. That's according to EU legal advice seen by RTE News. Now, Tony Connolly, journalist there, writing that the European Commission can take legal action against the UK once the bill is adopted, but also before it is adopted. That legal action would not be ready before the end of the transition, but it can look back retrospectively, the advice says. Given the advice, this again, Tony Connolly, given the length of the pre-litigation phase, it is unlikely that the case against the UK can be brought to the ECJ before the end of the year. If the EU takes such legal action, the ECJ could impose a lump sum or penalty payment on the UK if London does not abide by the ruling of the court. If and when the ECJ establishes a breach of the treaty, the advice says. The document also apparently stating that if the UK does not comply with an ECJ ruling on the matter or pay the fine, the EU is entitled to suspend its obligations arising from the withdrawal agreement, with the exception of the parts related to the EU and UK citizens. Now, interestingly, this guy's not exactly a Brexiteer. Former Secretary of State for Constitutional Affairs when Tony Blair was Prime Minister, Lord Faulkner, on Sky News, said that presuming the government ignored provisions, assuming that you're applying, they do ignore the provisions set out, then there's this is his words, there's absolutely nothing the EU can do except they will never trust us again. He says that I would imagine that Michel Barnier might be saying quite gently today that it's quite difficult to expect us to enter into a new agreement when you're saying you're not complying with the old one. But, you know, the key part there is absolutely nothing the EU can do. Now, Martin Howe, chairman of Lawyers for Britain, has a piece in the Telegraph saying, forget the foaming indignation. This Brexit bill is perfectly justifiable. He said, despite Brown and Lewis's rather puzzling remarks, there are good arguments that the government's clauses will not breach international law. Now, the arguments he makes, he says, he points out there are two clauses in the bill that have generated a torrent of foaming indignation. These would allow the government to restrict the so-called direct effect of two parts of the Northern Ireland Protocol, which is part of the EU withdrawal agreement. The government will also include a similar clause in the finance bill in order to prevent the protocol being weaponised by the EU to require wholesale imposition of EU tariffs on all goods sent from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. That would be flat contrary, he writes, to the Act of Union between Great Britain and Ireland, and would clearly alter the constitutional status of Northern Ireland within the UK. As such, Howe says, it would amount to a major breach of the core principle of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, that Northern Ireland's constitutional status cannot be changed without the consent of the people of Northern Ireland. Problems arose, Howe writes, from the sloppy and hurried drafting of some of the clauses of the protocol, coupled with clauses in Theresa May's atrociously negotiated withdrawal agreement. He says that these purport to impose on the UK and EU law concepts of direct effect of treaties and the withdrawal agreement supremacy over domestic law, even after we have ceased to be a member state, as well as giving the European Court of Justice binding powers of interpretation. These clauses defy universal international treaty practice, under which a sovereign state never subjects itself to binding rulings by courts of another treaty party. There is a general principle of international law, Howe says, that treaty power should be exercised in good faith, and an EU blockage of reasonable goods at risk rules under threat of treaty machinery to impose tariffs across the board could be classified as bad faith exercise of treaty powers. Secondly, and more fundamentally, he says, the alteration of the constitutional status of Northern Ireland, which across the board, again, he makes the point, which across the board tariffs on GB to Northern Ireland exports would entail, would breach the core principle of the Good Friday Agreement. So there you go. Will the EU take legal action against the UK? How do you think the UK, I think I know how some of you are going to respond. How do you think Brexit Britain should respond? One thing's for sure in all this. The EU was previously negotiating with a government under Theresa May that would roll over and have its belly tickled and basically get led around and bullied. And what you've now got is a government that is certainly acting and operating in a completely different way. Ben Habib, former Brexit Party MEP, making the point that the EU acted in bad faith in negotiating the withdrawal agreement. It weaponised Northern Ireland and colluded with anti-Brexit forces in the UK. The EU was in fundamental breach of the Article 50 process. Habib writes, Boris Johnson should not tinker with the withdrawal agreement. He should ditch it. So there you go, guys. Brexiteers, certainly under this government, taking a completely different approach to that we saw under Theresa May. The EU, I would say, rocked, rattled, and now apparently looking at the possibility of legal action. I want to know, what do you think is going to happen? What do you want to see the government do if there is legal action? And do you approve? A lot of you saying that you really do support what the government are doing. Is there anything else you'd like to see them do moving forward? And as ever, you can rely on Westminster to keep bringing you all the latest on this. Let me know what you think below in the comments. But remember to give a big thumbs up for this video if you've enjoyed the report. Remember to click subscribe and the bell so that you do not miss the next video. As ever, thanks for watching.